You ever have one of those neighbors who seems determined to make your life miserable, like they wake up every morning, stretch, look outside, and think, whose day can I ruin today? Well, mine is the president of our HOA. And around here, everyone calls her Karen with a capital K, bold, underlined. And this is the day she messed with the wrong person. It all started on a sunny Saturday morning. Birds chirping, coffee brewing, peaceful, until I heard it, bang, bang, bang. Someone hammering on my front door like the world was ending. I opened the door, and there she was, Karen herself, arms crossed, sunglasses on even though we were standing in the shade, lips pursed like she'd sucked a lemon. Your car, she snapped before I could even say hello, is a violation. My car, my perfectly clean, fully registered, legally parked, slightly older model sedan that I had owned for years. A violation of what, her personal sense of aesthetic? She shoved a bright yellow notice in my hand like she was serving a warrant. HOA Rule 1 for B, she said proudly. No vehicles older than 10 years may be parked in the driveway. It brings down neighborhood value. I actually laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was unbelievable. I'd read that rule a dozen times. It didn't apply unless the car was broken, rusted, or non-operational. Mine was none of those things. She just didn't like how it looked. But Karen didn't care about facts. Karen cared about control. She lectured me for 5 straight minutes, waving her clipboard like a sword. If it's not moved by tomorrow morning, she concluded, you will be fined $250, and every day after that, the fine increases. Then she strutted back to her SUV, her massive, shiny, oversized luxury beast parked diagonally across her driveway, like she owned the entire street. That's when I noticed something interesting. Her SUV, it had 7 HOA violations. Tint to dark, decals on the back, aftermarket rims, and best of all, its color. HOA rules required neutral tones. Beige, white, black, or gray. Her SUV was metallic silver. Close, but still not neutral. But once again, Karen didn't care about rules. She cared about me following her rules. That night, I sat in my garage staring at her SUV across the street, and that's when the idea hit me. An idea so outrageous, so ridiculous, and so satisfying that I actually started laughing. If she wanted to play games, I was about to paint her SUV bright pink. The moment the idea hit me, I knew it sounded insane. Who paints someone else's SUV bright pink, especially the HOA presidents? But the more I thought about Karen's smug face, that lemon-sucking glare, and the ridiculous violation she slapped on my perfectly fine car, the more the idea went from insane to irresistible. But if I was going to do this, I had to do it right. No rushing. No sloppy mistakes. No trail leading back to me. Step 1 was gathering supplies. I didn't dare buy anything locally. Karen practically lived in the neighborhood Facebook group and watched every delivery truck like it was a national security threat. So, I drove to towns over, walked into the hardware store, and bought the brightest, most fluorescent, Barbie-level pink paint they had. The kind of pink that glows under sunlight and screams, "Look at me." The cashier stared at the can and then at me. Painting a kid's room. Something like that, I said. Step 2 was timing. Karen had a schedule so predictable you could set a clock by it. Lights off at 10:03 p.m. every night, sprinklers on at 6:15 a.m. Dog walk at exactly 7 a.m., no matter the weather. Her SUV sat in the driveway overnight. Perfect. Step 3 was the approach. My house sat diagonally across from hers. Between us was an oak tree with a thick shadow that covered most of her driveway. If I positioned myself right, I could be hidden while working. But there was one more problem: cameras. Karen had 3-1 doorbell cam and 2 angled at her yard. Thankfully, none pointed directly toward her driveway, probably because she assumed no one would dare get close to her property. That arrogance was about to be her downfall. When the clock hit midnight, I suited up in all black, hoodie, gloves, and a mask. I slipped out the back door, crossed the lawn, and ducked behind the oak tree. Her SUV sat there like a giant silver trophy, reflecting the soft glow of the streetlight. I shook the spray can. 1 rattle, 2 rattles. My heart was pounding like a drum. I took a deep breath and released the first stream of neon pink across the door. Instant satisfaction. The color popped like bubblegum on chrome. It was beautiful, obnoxious, perfectly petty. I worked fast, door to door, hood to bumper, mirror to mirror. Every inch transformed into a glowing pink masterpiece. By the time I finished, her SUV looked like something straight out of a cartoon. And I walked home smiling like a villain in a movie. Tomorrow morning, Karen was going to explode. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual, not because I set an alarm, but because excitement practically launched me out of bed. Today was the day. Today, the queen of HOA drama was going to meet her brand new, bubblegum bright, fluorescent nightmare. I made myself a cup of coffee, opened my blinds just a few inches, and waited. 6:59 a.m., 7 a.m. Right on schedule, Karen's front door swung open. She strutted out with her dog like she always did, chin high, cardigan perfectly folded over her shoulders, sunglasses ready to judge the world. But when she took 3 steps toward her driveway, she froze. Her jaw dropped so fast I actually heard her gasp from across the street. Her silver SUV, her pride and joy, had been transformed into a glowing pink monument of humiliation. The kind of pink that slapped you in the face. The kind of pink that could be seen from space. For 5 solid seconds, she didn't move, she didn't blink. She just stood there, staring, like her brain was buffering. Then came the scream. It wasn't just a scream. It was a war crime mixed with pure disbelief. Her dog even backed up, tail tucked, like he didn't want to be associated with her meltdown. What is this? She shrieked, pacing around the SUV, waving her arms like she was directing traffic in a hurricane. She touched the paint, she sniffed it. She even tapped the hood as if maybe the pink color was some kind of illusion that would magically vanish. Spoiler: it didn't. Within minutes, she was on the phone calling the HOA board, calling the police, calling anyone who would listen. She yelled phrases like, "This is vandalism. This is an attack on the HOA. Someone is going to pay for this." I sat there on my couch, sipping my coffee, pretending to be shocked like everyone else in the neighborhood who had come outside to watch the spectacle unfold. Neighbors gathered on sidewalks, whispering and pointing. Kids giggled. One dad even said, "Honestly, it looks better than before." Karen didn't appreciate the commentary. She stormed from neighbor to neighbor, demanding security footage, interrogating people like she was running a federal investigation. The best part, every camera in the neighborhood conveniently seemed to have the same problem. "Oh, sorry Karen, it doesn't cover your driveway." Her face turned a shade of red that almost matched the SUV's new pink. And while she spiraled, fumed, and threatened to shut down the entire community, all I could think was, round 1, complete. By noon, our neighborhood looked like a crime scene without the yellow tape. Karen had officially activated what she called her HOA emergency response protocol. Translation: she gathered every board member she could find, marched them onto her driveway, and demanded justice like she was presenting evidence to the Supreme Court. The board members stood around her pink SUV with identical expressions, half shocked, half trying not to laugh. One of them, Mr. Dalton, squinted at the hood and said, "Well, at least it's evenly coated." Karen whipped around so fast he flinched. "Evenly coated? This is a hate crime," she screamed. I watched from my window, trying to hold in my laughter. But the real show started when the police finally arrived. 2 officers stepped out of their cruiser, took one look at the neon disaster, and exchanged a glance like, "This better be worth the paperwork." Karen ran to them dramatically. Officer, someone vandalized my vehicle. This is an act of hostility against the HOA." One officer walked around the SUV, taking notes. "Ma'am," he asked, "do you have any idea who would do this?" She pointed at 3 different houses immediately. "That one, probably them, or maybe them, or that kid, or..." The officer sighed. "So, no actual suspect?" Karen's eye twitched. "Well, it has to be someone who hates rules." The officer wrote nothing down. Then came the twist I didn't expect. As Karen ranted, the officer pulled out a printed copy of the HOA rules. Yes, the police actually brought a copy because she emailed it to them. He skimmed through, then paused. "Ma'am," he said carefully, "your SUV does violate several of these rules." Karen blinked. "Excuse me?" He continued, tapping the paper. "Tint to dark, decorative stickers, Non-neutral color. Technically, these are HOA violations. The silence that fell over the neighborhood could have powered the streetlights. Karen sputtered, That's irrelevant. I'm the HOA president," the officer shrugged. "Rules apply to everyone, ma'am." It was beautiful, magnificent, a moment of pure karmic poetry. But the twist wasn't over. As everyone stood around, Mr. Dalton, clearly tired of Karen's reign of terror, cleared his throat. "For the record," he said loudly, "your SUV has been out of compliance for months. But you told us to ignore it because you're the face of the community," the crowd whispered. Karen froze. Her power was slipping. And then Mr. Dalton delivered the knockout punch. "Maybe it's time the board reviews your position." Karen's face drained of color. For once, she had nothing to say. And all I could think was, this was going even better than I planned. After the police left and the HOA board retreated to discuss Karen's conduct, the neighborhood slowly returned to normal, well, as normal as it could be, with a giant pink SUV glowing like a neon sign in the middle of the street. Karen slammed her door and shut herself inside, refusing to speak to anyone. Her blinds were closed so tight they looked welded shut. But the fallout was only beginning. Later that evening, the HOA board held an emergency meeting at the community center. Normally, only the board attended these meetings, but after the pink SUV disaster, half the neighborhood showed up just to observe. I took a seat in the back, acting casual, like I wasn't silently responsible for the chaos. The board members looked tense. Karen sat at the front with her arms crossed, face tight, still fuming. Mr. Dalton stood and cleared his throat. "Due to recent events," he said, "we need to discuss concerns regarding leadership, fairness, and misuse of HOA authority." Karen slammed her hands on the table. "This is ridiculous. I'm the only one who actually enforces the rules around here." "Enforces," Mr. Dalton repeated, "or weaponizes." You could feel the air shift. He then pulled out a folder, documents, timestamps, photos of her SUV's long list of violations. "You ignore every rule you broke while aggressively targeting neighbors for minor or non-existent issues. That's not leadership. That's harassment," the room murmured. Karen's face twitched. "This is a setup," she shouted. But the board had already made up their minds. After a short vote majority in favor, they removed her as HOA president effective immediately. I couldn't describe the joy in that moment. Neighbors clapped, some sighed with relief. Someone whispered, "It's about time." Karen stormed out of the room, humiliated, practically vibrating with rage. And for once, she didn't have a clipboard to hide behind. Later that night, something unexpected happened. A soft knock hit my door. I opened it to find Mr. Dalton standing there. He sighed. "I'm not saying I know who painted her car," he said carefully, "but whoever did, well, they might have just saved this neighborhood a lot of trouble." I shrugged. "Crazy world," I said. He smirked. "Just maybe avoid bright pink for a while." When he left, I stepped outside and looked across the street one last time. Karen's SUV sat there under the streetlight, glowing proudly. A symbol, a warning, a masterpiece, my car. Still in perfect compliance, still parked in my driveway. And now, with no Karen to harass me, it finally looked like peace had returned. In the end, justice wasn't just served. Enjoying this wild HOA story? Go ahead and hit subscribe so you don't miss the next twist in these neighborhood dramas. If this one made you laugh or shake your head, drop a like and tell me in the comments, what would you have done if Karen came after your car?